Days into the second Trump administration, Attorney General Bondi's Department of Justice, I'm afraid, is resisting this committee's efforts at oversight. To date, I have sent 18 oversight requests to the Department of Justice, received 2 responses, and they were cursory. One involved a simple records preservation request. It took the department 76 days to respond, and they wouldn't even commit to preserving the records. Contrast this with the Justice Department's response to Chairman Grassley. By your count, you've received responses to almost half of your letters, and the department has provided thousands of pages of documents that you've requested. During my 4 years as chair of the committee, I pressed the Biden Justice Department to respond to oversight requests from Democrats and Republicans alike. In June 2021, only 5 months into the Biden administration, I convened a bipartisan meeting between Judiciary Committee members and Attorney General Merrick Garland to discuss the need to respond to committee's requests. I restored the committee's longstanding tradition of holding regular oversight hearings. At this point in the Biden administration, we had convened oversight hearings with the FBI director and the Bureau of Prisons, and I held a Justice Department oversight hearing with Attorney General Garland a few months later. Why does this committee's oversight of the Justice Department matter? Let me take a moment to briefly discuss my latest request to Attorney General Bondi.
Patriots, buckle up because today we're diving into yet another coordinated hit job from the radical left. And this time, they're going after Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Trump. Yep, again. The left is losing their minds over a private jet. Yes, you heard that right, a jet. Not policy, not our crumbling border, not our economy. Not the lives being destroyed under Biden's weak leadership, but a jet supposedly gifted to President Trump from the state of Qatar. Let's break this all down. So Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois and longtime Trump hater, took the floor to accuse Pam Bondi of everything short treason because of a legal memo she allegedly wrote that said it would be legally permissible for Trump to accept a private plane from Qatar. Now, before I get into the weeds here, let's just stop and think. Are these people serious? Trump is a billionaire. The man owns jets. He doesn't need a jet. But even if he were gifted one that would be used during his term and later donated to his presidential library, that's now an international crime? Give me a break.
As President Trump confirmed a few days ago, his administration is in talks with the state of Qatar to receive a private jet as a gift from the royal family. This aircraft would be retrofitted to act as Air Force One for the remainder of Trump's term in office, and then ownership would be transferred to Trump personally and the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. The president claimed it would be, quote, stupid to say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. What the president failed to say was that it would cost American taxpayers more than the value of the airplane to outfit it to be Air Force One. And of equal importance, the Constitution, which we've all sworn to uphold and defend, is expressed on the issue of gifts or emoluments from foreign sources. The Constitution gives Congress the power to control whether any officer of the United States, including the president, may accept a gift from, quote, any king, prince, or foreign state. This gift clearly violates the Constitution and the laws enacted by Congress to govern such gifts. Yet Attorney General Bondi reportedly produced a legal memorandum concluding that it would be, quote, legally permissible, close quote, for the president to accept this airplane from this foreign power. This committee and the American people need to see her legal rationale that purportedly permits this unprecedented gift. I've requested that memo be produced. There are also grave concerns with Attorney General Bondi participating in any matter involving the state of Qatar, given that she was a registered foreign agent of that government who lobbied the Qatari government prior to her confirmation as Attorney General. There are obvious questions to be asked and answered. During her confirmation process, Attorney General Bondi failed to list the state of Qatar as a conflict of interest. When I asked her about it, she refused to commit to recusing herself from matters involving this foreign power. She claimed she would, quote, consult with career ethics officials within the Justice Department and make the appropriate decision. However, Trump political appointees have conveniently removed the senior career ethics officials who would advise on such decisions and put their duties in the hands of two inexperienced political appointees beholden to the Attorney General. In light of these significant ethical concerns, I've also requested that Attorney General Bondi provide information related to any ethical consultation on her involvement in the Trump administration's consideration of this gift. Let's not forget that President Trump confirmed reports of this gift merely weeks after his family personally landed a deal for a Trump-branded luxury golf resort where? In Qatar. For years, the Republicans have baselessly claimed that President Biden engaged in criminal wrongdoing, but Republicans continue to turn a blind eye to President Trump pocketing millions and millions of dollars at the expense of American people while testing the limits of the Constitution. Mr. Chairman, I have two requests. First, let's convene a meeting with Attorney General Bondi as soon as possible to discuss responding to our oversight request, as I did with Attorney General Merrick Garland. Second, it's imperative that we hear from her as well, and FBI Director Patel under oath. I hope that we can convene these oversight hearings as quickly as possible. I yield.
Can I respond or ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Is that, you mean beyond our regular oversight hearings that we have with the Attorney General and the FBI Director, or part of that?
Do you remember when Biden took office and we raised I think you led it, and we all joined in, the bipartisan request that they answer our request, our letters and such. And you didn't like the way you were treated. I didn't like the way you were treated. So we brought Merrick Garland in and personally talked to him on a bipartisan basis of our relationship with the Department of Justice. I think we need to do it again.
Okay. I want to respond to what you said about oversight letters. First of all, I want to make it very clear that I think every member of Congress, not just Senator Durbin as ranking member or my as chairman, ought to get answers to your oversight letters. The other thing is, I think I backed that up with my actions way back in 2017 when the first Trump administration said that they were only going to answer letters from chairmen of committees, which means that about 80% of the members of the Congress would never get answers to their letters. And I did that not only by writing and getting that reversed by that administration. Now, maybe that reversal didn't do much good, but we still got it reversed. And I testified before the House Oversight Committee, or maybe it was the Judiciary Committee, on the very same subject, that not only chairmen, but ranking members, but all 535 members of Congress are entitled to answers to their letters. Now, I'd like to respond to what you said. During the 117th Congress, when I was ranking member of this committee, at many executive committee meetings, I raised issues with the Biden Justice Department non-responsive to my oversight letters. I repeatedly asked Biden Justice and FBI for in-person meetings to get answers, but that never happened. The committee did convene one fairly brief phone call with committee members and Attorney General Garland. I'll have some statistics here. I don't think that changed a thing. The committee's lack of further effort obviously resulted in the Biden Justice Department stiff-arming us on this committee. Take, for example, my 144 outstanding justice oversight letters. Not once did I get a fully responsive production from the Biden Justice Department. So let's not pretend for a minute that last administration was a benchmark for responsiveness. Moreover, last Congress, the Biden Justice Department produced a classified report about the John Durham investigation. As you'll all recall, that investigation further unpacked the already discredited Crossfire Hurricane investigation. The Biden Justice Department gave access to that classified only to the chairman, ranking member, and one staffer for each. Everyone else was boxed out. When I became chairman, I renegotiated those terms to include all members of this committee, Republican or Democrat, and a staffer for each. And I made sure that the Justice Department bring that document here to the Senate, and I demanded that members and staff be allowed to take notes. Notes weren't allowed that Congress, weren't allowed last Congress. The Justice Department and intelligence community relented. So things have already begun to change for better with this administration and this Congress, and whatever you want me to do, help you get answers to your question, I will be glad to do it. It's my responsibility, as you said, you contacted Garland for us.
Chairman, I did, and I do it again, and I do it for any member of the committee to get an answer. And what we're facing right now with this gift from Qatar of a plane worth $400 million or whatever it is, it's entirely appropriate for us to ask the Attorney General for a copy of the memorandum where she said it was legally permissible for this administration to take possession of that airplane. And the fact that she was a foreign agent of this government, Qatar, that she was a paid lobbyist for that government as well, raises some ethical issues that need to be addressed directly. It's timely, we should do it. To ignore it is to walk away from our responsibility.
I want to speak about that emolument issue, not directly to what you just said. And if it's I don't know why that document shouldn't be made available, but I think I need more reason before I can say that with the certainty that you'd like to have me say it.
Mr. Chair, down here, Tom Tillis.
That away.
You're right. The other Tom, we look a lot alike.
I'd like to speak first, and then
Okay.
I'll call on anybody that wants to speak. I find it interesting that my Democrat colleague continued to bring up the emolument clause regarding Trump. They did so in his first term and have done so again with respect to the airplane. Yet my Democrat colleagues never cared about my emolument clause oversight during the March 2016. At that time, I wrote the Obama Justice Department. That letter was based on Secretary Clinton's 2009 to 2013 financial disclosures when she was Secretary of State. Those disclosures showed her husband participated in at least 62 events in foreign states. Some of those were speaking events in connection with foreign governments, and some speaking events were financially supported by foreign governments. For example, on at least 2 occasions, Bill Clinton received hundreds of thousands of dollars for appearances sponsored by Middle Eastern governments. Bill Clinton also received $200,000 for a speech connected to the Chinese government. In another example, Bill Clinton received almost $200,000 for a speech sponsored by a foreign city. In at least one example, Bill Clinton received $500,000 for a speech in Moscow. That speech was funded by the Russian Investment Bank, whose senior members included former Russian intelligence personnel. I wrote about that example in 2017. Hillary and Bill Clinton were married, and she was Secretary of State when all that money was made. Thus, it was a joint income. As my investigation work has shown, Hillary Clinton directly received money from foreign governments while Secretary of State. Moreover, Bill Clinton's speaking fees appear to have increased from $150,000 to sometimes $500,000 or even $750,000 when Hillary became Secretary of State. I don't recall hearing my colleagues on the other side of the aisle showing any interest in these apparent violations of emoluments. When Democrats filed suit against President Trump in his first term, they argued before the courts that the foreign emolument clause, quote, regulates the private conduct of federal officials, end of quote. They claim he was violating the clause through his private businesses, and so Congress couldn't use the, quote, power of the purse, unquote, to correct things. Well, here. That's not the case. Now they're arguing that Trump's violating the emolument clause for what clearly isn't for his private use, but is instead a gift to the United States. In any event, when an emolument clause violation occurs, a remedy is to disgorge the emolument to the federal government. Here's an example with Trump, and unlike Clinton, the federal government would be a recipient of the airplane. and the plane reportedly won't be used by Trump outside of government, and rather it may be parked in a presidential library, which is ultimately operated by National Archives. Senator Coons, you want...
Durbin and the Democrats are waving around the Constitution's Emoluments clause like it's a magical sword they just discovered, screaming that Trump is selling out America because someone gave him an airplane. But where were these same watchdogs when Bill and Hillary Clinton were raking in millions from foreign governments, from Russia, from China, from the Middle East, all while Hillary was Secretary of State? Senator Tillis even brought up that Bill Clinton took $500,000 from a Russian bank tied to intelligence officials. And they dare lecture us on foreign influence? And let's talk about Pam Bondi. You know, she served honorably as Florida's Attorney General, and now she's being crucified for doing her job. Durbin wants to make it sound like being a registered lobbyist for Qatar before taking office is a scandal. Let me tell you what's actually scandalous: Joe Biden's entire family allegedly taking payouts from China, Ukraine, and God knows where else while he was VP and president. But Pam Bondi doing legal work before office? That's suddenly an ethical crisis? No, it's not about justice. It's about control. They hate Bondi because she doesn't bow to their pressure, and they hate Trump because he won't play their globalist game. And the so-called gift isn't even for Trump personally. The plan, according to reports, is that it would be used by his administration and then go to his presidential library, which, by the way, is overseen by the National Archives. That's not personal gain, that's national legacy. But again, facts don't matter to the left. Only narratives do. Now, let's flip the script for a second. Imagine Joe Biden accepted a plane from a foreign nation. The media would be silent. The Democrats would say he's building international diplomacy. MSNBC would call it a historic partnership. But when it's Trump, it's criminal. This is hypocrisy at its peak. The left isn't interested in fairness. They're interested in silencing conservatives, erasing Trump's legacy. Let's be clear about what's really happening here. Durbin is laying the groundwork to weaponize the DOJ again, just like they tried with the Russia hoax, just like they did with the two sham impeachments, and just like they've done with every bogus indictment we've seen since Trump left office. It's not about a plane. It's about power. So what do, Patriots? We don't back down. We speak the truth. We support leaders like President Trump and Attorney General Bondi, who are willing to take the hits for doing what's right. We call out hypocrisy. We demand answers from this administration about their ethics, their deals, their silence on the border, their weaponization of law enforcement, and their complete failure to stand up for you, the American people. They want a war over ethics? Fine, let's have one. But we'll fight it with facts, faith, and the Constitution, not with smear campaigns and partisan theatrics. Until then, stay strong, stay sharp, and never forget, we the people still hold the power. Like, share, and subscribe for more truth. I'm Conservative Chronicle, and this was your dose of Patriot truth. See you next time.